Hi all, I welcome you to the Building Culture podcast where I invite incredibly smart people who build things. Whether they be engineers, entrepreneurs, programmers, hobbyists or researchers, it does not matter. As long as you're someone who's passionate about building things, I'll find you and podcast you. Hi all, I want to take a brief moment to thank you all personally for supporting this podcast on YouTube and on all major podcast platforms, including Google Podcasts and Spotify. The podcast mainly features interesting people in robotics, artificial intelligence, and entrepreneurship. If you believe that the information that I'm providing might be of benefit to you or to someone you know, it would be really great if you could hit the subscribe button and press the notification icon so that you can get notified on time whenever the next part is out. It would literally take you a second or two to subscribe to the podcast, but it would really mean a lot to me because I can grow the podcast to a level where I can reach more people, invite ever more interesting guests, and have a more meaningful impact. So let's begin now. And so in Germany, how the PhD goes is that in a similar way you get a contract where you are also involved in teaching and supervising and other educational related things, and you work as a full-time employee of that, and you get a fixed amount there. So is it also same there?
But I think in Germany, if I'm not wrong, it is 3 years, right? Or
Yeah, it's 3 years.
It is 3 years.
Mostly it's, ideally it's 3 years.
Here it is 4 or plus.
Okay.
But 99.9% is 4. Plus is basically like maybe for me, I don't know. They should give 6 months more because I don't think I'll finish my PhD because of the COVID. All my experiments that were planned in between March and September where everything was delayed and the infrastructure changed, and now we are looking for online setting. So so we have a contract just like a job, and it's 4 years. Initially you get it for 1 year. After 1 year you have a review where it's called like a go-no-go meeting. I think that was my second video in my channel about the go-no-go meeting. So then you get a extension of 3 more years after you pass that, and and towards the end hope that it doesn't get extended, and you also get a contract extension if it gets extended.
Okay. And how much do you get paid, if I may ask? I'll also cut this portion if you don't want to reveal anything.
Okay. I was planning to make a video like I think when maybe in 1 or 2 months, how much I get from YouTube and how much I get from PhD, showing my pay slip.
Okay.
Now I think it increases every year. So in the first year we get really less. And in this, I will just tell you my final year because I don't remember the exact amount in first year. I think in first year it was around, the net after tax was around 2,000 euros on hand every month after tax, and also including the bonus, because you have 2 bonus, if you know, like one is the 13th month bonus and one is the vacation bonus. So basically you work 12 months and you get paid for 14 months. That's what everywhere in Germany and Netherlands it is like that. I'm not sure about Germany, but it is there in Netherlands.
Yeah, I don't know about this thing.
You will definitely have 1 bonus. I don't know about the 2 bonus. I think it should be same, but I don't know.
Okay.
So
but the pay is, I think, more or less same for first year. I think it's similar here as well.
Whatever I remember from my friends, it was like 80 or 100 euro difference between the payment of Germany and Netherlands. So Germany, it was like 80 to 100 euros less when you do the net, because the taxation was higher, but there is also catch to it. So whatever I have heard from Germany, from my friends, that in Germany your salary already deducts the tax, including the health insurance, right?
Yeah.
So in our case, they don't deduct it. We get the salary and then we pay the insurance separate. So if in that way you see, then you get higher in Germany than Netherlands. But on paper it will show Germany is less, but it's actually higher when you deduct the health insurance here. So in that way it doesn't make difference. It's very similar. In my final year, normally what happens after the 1 year review, your second year salary increases really high in terms of gross. If you see the net, the difference is not that high. But then third year, final year, second year, third year, final year, after first to second year, high increase, second to third, third to fourth, small increase, like 100 euro gross. And at the end of final year, it's somewhere around 2400 currently, 2450 or something, 2450 euro net salary after tax, excluding the bonus. I think if you include the bonus, it will be, if you put it on an average every month, it will be something like 2550 or 2500 roughly, 550. So that is the salary that you can expect at the end year. But I think if someone starts now, every year they revise the salary, so maybe it will be 50-100 euros more, because depending on the expenses every year it also increases. So
Now let's talk about how difficult doing a PhD is, right? A PhD is something that is very infamous for being very difficult. I know some PhD students and they are like really upset all the time and really struggling and stuff. So PhD is definitely not an easy thing to do. But you are here smiling and expressing your interest about your topic, but I'm pretty sure it would be challenging at times, right? How would you describe your PhD in terms of difficulty?
So I can give you like one or two examples when it was challenging, and then I can tell you how I cope with that, because I think that will be more helpful for people, because the challenge will vary from PhD to PhD.
Yeah.
And one advice which I would like to give is that never compare any PhDs, be it in same field. So even if you have a PhD who's exactly similar and working something different, and maybe you start together, it may so happen that maybe that PhD has 3 publications by the end of third year, or 2 publications, really good impact factor journals and conferences, and maybe you have 1 or 0. So if you start comparing, I think that is the main route. As far as I know, no supervisors or no one, if you are really working, if you are really in sync with your plan, and if you are really working hard, they also notice that, then I don't think they will ever compare anyone. They never compare it. And you should also not do it, because being an Indian, I think we always compare. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
right.
it is Indian. I think it is also true for others also.
I think
People-
it's probably right. I mean, I think it's more Indian, this thing.
So the moment you start comparing, because the thing is, like, you don't know how the trajectory went. So maybe at some point you did also something good, and for that reason you invested so much time which you could not feel, but that delayed everything. So it may be a good thing, it may also be something, because the way you go, like, I mean, that is why every person is created unique, right? Like, everyone has their strengths and weakness. So if you don't compare, then you will have that peace of mind. That is the biggest thing which causes more distress and everything among the PhDs. When you're working in a big team, then people generally tend to compare, and you have to stop doing that. And how you do that, that you have to do. But I don't want to give advice on meditation and all those things, but
We will also talk about these parts in the last section.
okay. I mean, I just uttered that term, but I don't do meditation, but I just try to think positive. That's it. Like, yeah. So this is one thing which can help you to think positive. And what was the other question? I forgot.
This was the only question. It's correct. It's fine. How difficult is doing your PhD? And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so also you chose your
Yeah, another thing I want to mention, you can cut it and include it. So as I mentioned, that you should have an off time, like, it can be YouTube, it can be cooking, it can be anything else, traveling, anything. So normally the way I see it is like, always you want to be to have that high level of dopamine, right? Like things that make you happy. So it can be anything. Like these are just examples. It can be anything.
But
So
from
if
good
you
sources,
try to,
right? But from good sources, you can, for dopamine, you can also, scroll through social media and,
yeah.
waste your time.
You mean like productive way of increasing dopamine? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in that sense, you can maybe pursue any kind of hobby, if you can say, except social media. So, what I'm trying to say is that normally, why I'm saying is that maybe in the first year you'll have a publication. I'm just relating it to my trajectory. That's why I'm giving this example. And then suddenly you have 2, 3 back-to-back rejections. So if you only have that thought in your mind, that PhD all the time, then you will obviously remember the majority part, which is the rejections. And then you start causing yourself like the increase the negative thoughts, and then start thinking, doubting yourself. Lot of things will start to happen suddenly after you think this long time. So in those moments, if you have this switch mode, then you should try to, it's not like you are cooking and again thinking in your brain about the rejection. You should immerse yourself in that activity, maybe video, or so then it will help a lot. Like I think so, because just saying that I will think positive won't help that much. You have to create that environment, create that surrounding, then only it will even help you more to push that positivity. Otherwise it's not going to come out automatically. Like yeah, so that's what
So,
another point I wanted to add.
so thinking positive and also taking frequent breaks and relaxing
Yeah.
yourself is very important when dealing with the difficult portions of the PhD phase, right?
Yeah.
And
Because
also,
this is not everything, right? Like I mean, you have a life, so you have certain talents, you have grown to that stage, so it's not like I mean, like we think in India, I don't know if people will be angry saying always India, like so what I wanted to say is that, like, don't think like, okay, if you are doing a PhD in this field, then for your life you are going to work in that field. If you lose that mindset, like it can be anything. Because why I'm saying this, it may sound very laughable or like a joke. Sometimes I think I will become a cook because I cook really good. I'll become a chef. So or maybe open a hotel and do a business. So I think you should allow these kind of thoughts to come to your mind. This is just an example that you should make yourself very flexible. Don't keep yourself thinking like, okay, I'm doing this. You are really passionate about that research. Maybe after 2 years, you lose the passion. No one knows why. It may be because of the rejections, maybe because of the circumstances, maybe because of some technical issues. So, at that time, you can look for some other passion and then try to lift it again, or like that's why you have some multiple passions. I mean, like
doing
3-4
parallelly.
things. Yeah. Then if something doesn't work, you invest more time in the other thing, and then you come back here again, and you might feel better in terms of I would say that is helpful for me. I don't know about like others, but
Okay, that's a really good tip. I mean, because once someone would choose a PhD topic, then he or she would think that, yeah, this is the topic that I would have to do for the rest of my life, right? Because you are an expert in a very specialized thing, and so it may only make sense that you use it after you do your PhD as well. But what you are saying is that it's okay, maybe after a few years you realize that, yeah, this PhD is going fine, but maybe I could also explore other interests, and
yeah.
you should allow yourself that. So that's, I think, a really important lesson that you shared there. Also, talking about PhD, for you, the process of selecting your PhD topic was through your master's thesis. But generally, what is the process or advice that you would like to give for anyone who wants to do a PhD but is thinking of which direction he wants to go, which topic? How does one select a PhD topic?
I think I mean, I did not do that, but I would advise everyone to do that. That when you start a master thesis, you should be really that visionary or that conscious that, okay, if it will never be 100% the same way, but you should have some kind of a short plan, like how can this be extended or done as a future extensive research on this topic, what I'm doing in my master's. When you choose the master thesis, right from that point, you should have some idea in your mind, which is really difficult. But there's no harm that if it doesn't work, but there's no harm of thinking about it, because that will help you a lot when you are looking for PhDs. Because I remember in my time, whatever I've heard from Dutch people, 60-70% of the time PhDs never get exactly or even 80% similar of what they are working on in masters and what they get in PhD. Most of the time it is not same, although there is some overlap in the approach.
So the
or
master's
something.
thesis topic and PhD topic is different, is what you
Most of the time if you ask PhDs, it's not the same. So I mean, in my case also it is different, but in a way it is very similar. So because of the background what I was doing, like in learning analytics, so in that sense I was very happy, but that was by coincidence. I mean, like, because I was searching for so many places, and then I got around, I think, 20 or 30 rejections, and then I had 5-6 admits. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you have that thought in the beginning of your master thesis, like how you are going to relate it or do it in the future, then you will not reach this stage what I was in. So because I never planned this, I should have, but I never. But it always happens like that. Like when you are through something, then only you are able to give advice to someone, because you realize, okay, this was my mistake. And most of the time it is the case. Most of the time it's not that, unless you are really genius and you are a visionary, okay, you can see what will happen after 1 year if I do this, that. So if you keep that in mind when you start your master thesis, and also try to steer it in that direction, and maybe I would say, like, in the middle of your master thesis, or when you start writing, so when you are sure what your thesis will be, at that time, if you start looking for PhD positions, that will help you a lot. Like because at that time you have an idea, and most of the people where I apply, I remember, they always ask you, even if you have not written your thesis, they accept you till the interview, but they ask you, like, what your thesis is about, what is your main research question, what problem you are trying to solve, why is it important, these kind of basic questions. So if you are not ready to write the thesis, or you have not written even like a month, then I don't think you should apply too early. Otherwise you won't be able to answer this question, and they might straight away say, like, you are not ready or something like that. So yeah.
Okay. So planning beforehand, deciding where you want to go, and then choosing a topic, you know, ideally before starting your master's thesis, but also during your thesis, maybe you get more clarity, or maybe you spend more time thinking and understanding, and then applying to PhD topics.
Yeah.
So also regarding PhDs, one final question that I would want to ask is, to do a PhD or not, what was your reason for doing a PhD? You could also be working at an industry, right? From a computer science background, you would be very highly paid, and you would get plenty of opportunities. So to do a PhD or not is the question.
I can again say it in two parts. Like, first part is like why I chose PhD, and whether you should choose or not, because I don't know if I mentioned it in any videos, but so why I chose is, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can describe it, but there was some feeling inside that I want to do, I would not say research. I think I was more interested to be in academia. I did not have in mind doing research when I started my master thesis, but it was more like I was attracted to academia. I don't know. I think the major reason was flexibility. I don't know. Maybe in job also you have flexibility, people might argue, but I think it was what attracted me about the flexible working hours, flexibility and everything. And when I was doing my master thesis, at that time, this research sparked my interest a lot, which eventually I went to do a PhD. The main reason was our experiments were like 15 sessions where we collected data, and in each session the classroom was very big, and it had like 300 to 350 bachelor students per session. So I was just thinking, like, even if I have not built this tool, but if I can contribute something in that and somehow improve the teaching or the experience of the learners in the classroom by mining this huge data, then I mean, it's because like your work is immediately coming from the real life scenarios. Like that was also in the wild scenario, it was not experimental. We never told any students like open this page, click this. It was very natural. And also I'm seeing myself, okay, this thing is implemented in a huge class. I never felt that feeling. I don't know, it was kind of a different feeling when I see that it is used, and even though I did not build that tool. So that feeling changed my perspective towards doing research in this setting, like something related to education. And I also always have in mind after that, in some way or the other, maybe in online research or the research that I'm doing now, to contribute like 1 or 2% in improving the education in the classroom or in the online space. So it was more like you feel, okay, your work can be useful to the society now.
Impactful.
And that feeling, yeah, impactful.
So what do you think are the... Sorry, you continue.
Yeah. No, I was saying like about the, you asked another point, like whether PhD or not PhD. So I would say like one thing that I can say from my experience, if you are really not interested, by interest I mean like if you are not sure that you can commit yourself for 3, 4 or 5 years, and you think that it might be stressful or you have some other feelings about it, then I think you should not go for it. Like, because if you really don't find interest and you just think like, okay, I mean, I've seen that with most people. That's why I'm saying people are like, okay, I'm applying for jobs and now there's a COVID situation and I'm seeing that people are getting PhDs. So if I don't get a job, then I will end up in a PhD. So if you do that, I think that's a horrible mistake. Like, even if you stay for more time and spend money, not getting job, maybe getting job after 6 months is okay. But going inside that, and you are really not interested, but you're just going inside it as a backup option, like a PhD, it's not really not advisable. Like, don't think of it as like a light thing, or like, okay, I will go there and after 6 months maybe I'll leave, and I don't think it will help. So have that commitment, you understand what actually it means, or maybe talk to different PhDs, or maybe watch videos of people who are making PhDs, genuine videos, and try to understand what actually a PhD means. So you should be fully conscious of what you're going into, otherwise it will cause you a lot of troubles. Like,
not use it as a backup plan.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing you mentioned about your PhD topic selection is that ultimately you want to contribute something to the education, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think are the limitations of education, or where it can be improved, I think?
I mean, especially I can say in the context of India, because my long-term plan is to go back to India. So that's why I would say like I would say like it is just based on the hearsay or some news I study, but it's not like a real study of the problems that we have in the Indian classrooms. So I don't know if I can give a good answer on this, but I would say like if you see the Indian education now, I think especially if you see learning analytics and compare it to what is present in Netherlands and maybe in Germany, I think there are a lot of things which you, if just replicate from here, to India. India is still, in my opinion, is still like 3 to 5 years behind in terms of the quality of indicators or metrics that they're collecting through online or physical spaces. I don't think that amount of research is going on, especially, and there's a lot of potential. I mean to say, like, I don't know exactly the root problems, but I think the way the classroom is, and I don't think internet will be a problem in the coming years with the current way it is going up. So in that way, they need more investment and more R&D. And the R&D part, I think, is lacking. I don't have proper data, but the R&D part is still lacking. And if they have this investment, maybe government, which is very difficult unless there are so many things, or maybe by crowdfunding, because now I'm seeing a lot of researchers even in India are using crowdfunding to the maximum of their advantage. If you really have a good proposal and everything, just like you start a company, in crowdfunding also people are interested if it is really good. Some VCs also give you money in crowdfunding. That also I came to know in Twitter. So I'm just repeating again why I'm mentioning Twitter. Maybe I'm very lucky that I get everything on Twitter, but I'm just saying. So the thing is, I don't think I can give a definite answer, but there's a lot of potential, and the R&D part is missing. I mean, the infrastructure and everything will slowly come up, but to use that to maximum advantage, to create personalized learning environments and to really help people experience, and I think education is going to go up. That's what my feeling is, like, at least education sector wise, even though people go abroad from India, they need quality, and there will be a lot of challenges, but they need quality. So yeah, a lot of work is pending.
So by quality, do you mean just changing the way things are taught? So for example, from a conventional classroom to digitalizing everything, or do you mean just the quality of teaching the material?
I mean, obviously my research is not on the teaching style or the materials, but for that I need partnerships. But my main focus was on the improving the, like, how people, suppose you have a teacher teaching something, and there is a tool or some kind of feedback or personalized statements coming via email, which can tell you, like, okay, in this assignment you had this misconception, or you had this part to focus on, but you focus more on part B, and you should also have some focus here, or spend 1 hour more on this. So I mean, it is again scarily going towards the direction of AI. So because you cannot do all these things entirely with humans, you need to automate, but obviously you need to decide how much humans should be there so that you don't lose the grasp. Something like this, like to make it more intuitive for them also to regulate themselves, like based on these additional inputs, they can understand what is going wrong with their education. And also the point that you mentioned in the beginning, I think that is more challenging, that switching everything to digital, even though there is COVID, I think there are a lot of challenges, because it's also depends on the policy, depends on the lobbying, depends on the local entities there. Like, obviously people who have international schools and all, they will have connections and they'll try to oppose these kind of. So I don't know if I'll go into that, or that will be too much, but this part I think is more achievable, at least in this stage, as compared to completely changing the education policy and all, unless you have ministerial links or something.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, but this thing, using AI to transform the way things are learned. This thing is probably not just specific to India. I think this is a global thing, right? And also, you talk about what are the things that can be that you would want to contribute to the education system. What is your view of an ideal education system? If such an education system existed, how would it look like according to you?
This is again a very difficult question. I think I don't know how to answer it. So I will say like, um, yeah, I think that
Just
education
your views
system,
in general.
yeah. I don't think any education system can be ideal, but if it is even near to ideal, then I think it should be more like, as I go back to the point where I mentioned about the intrusion and everything. So it should be more, what is that they call? There is a term for that. So it should be more like feel good education. So feel good in the sense that, like suppose you are in the classroom, you should never feel, if you have a software or a tool showing something on the phone or on the screen in real time, you should not feel that that thing is, I mean, it is very difficult to explain also. Like there is a very thin line of separation, like where you become really annoying and you are assisting. So you should have that boundary of separation, like that the software or the tool is just like an assistant or a assisting media, not like a annoying thing which is completely overpowering you, or as you mentioned also, like overpowering your decisions. So you need to decide that sweet spot, like how much control it should have on you. So it should not be over controlling, if I say in short. And the students should always enjoy the learners or students should always enjoy the environment, and should feel that they are there for like that specific goal, like for which they are, um, yeah, I mean, that's what I can say. I don't know if I answered it properly, but
The education system that you think of in your mind has to have the artificial intelligence aspect of it as well, but keeping the intrusion and the human aspect also alive in a way, like a rough picture of it.
I mean,
So,
the best way will be like if you keep the learner always in the loop, like taking their feedback also, like when you develop something and give some feedback, if you take their perspective or their feedback also in the loop, then I think it will be easier to design these kind of systems so that you don't reach that stage that you start annoying or being very bossy, like they call it, like because I don't think anyone wants to be coached, right? It is also a human tendency, and if it is a machine, again, they can just switch it off or
yeah. So giving people the how do
control.
you say that? Yeah, giving people the control. Okay.
And
So
it's very difficult. These things are very easy to say, these two, three
yeah,
lines, but this
exactly.
is really, really difficult. Like,
That's why you're doing your PhD in this area, right? So now let's talk about your YouTube channel. So you are doing your PhD in the Netherlands. You're living there. So
yeah.
let's first talk about how studying in Netherlands is. Why should one study in Netherlands or consider studying here?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think I have mentioned that in many videos. I'll just sum it up. So, I mean, education wise, if you compare it to India, I would say it's much, much better in terms of practicality, what I say always. So, based on my experience, I don't know about IITs or NITs. So, in a state government college where I studied my bachelor's, we don't get that much practical exposure, although we are really good in theory, but practically we don't do things, we don't experience the failure, we don't go to that extent unless someone does it yourself. It is not driven by the university. So in that sense, here I learned a lot about trying out things, even though it doesn't work, report the failures, also from the failures, people write papers, like challenge papers. In PhDs, they teach you like, okay, suppose you tried something, there are these state-of-the-art technology available, you tried 3 of them, and then you also propose something, and all 4 of them did not give results as expected by you. You can still convert it to a publication if you write it as a challenge paper saying these are the challenges, this is what I have done, and this is the solution that can be done. And people are appreciative about it if you know how to formulate that thing. So experience of studying, I would say this was the best thing that I learned about the practicality and flexibility. One thing is also like, I think it is more culture based. Like when I came here, you can choose courses, you can choose certain courses and do them 1 week and then leave them and go to some other new course immediately. And those things I never experienced in India. So in terms of choice, flexibility, and the teaching style and the everything is really, I mean, in teaching style, I mentioned that also many times, like most of the curriculum here in Netherlands is built on the research papers. So they have books for your additional guidance if you need, but courses are mostly designed on last 10 to 15 years publications, and they're really updated every year. It's not like an outdated thing, which I think is really, I mean, even if you don't design it from a paper, especially in India, if you update it regularly, then you should be in sync with the current standards. So so these are the basic advantages that I found studying here in Netherlands.
Hey guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this particular conversation and it helped you in some way, shape or form. If it did, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification icon or the bell icon so that you can get notified on time whenever the next part is out. Also, it would be really great if you could give me your feedback in the comments below. That would really help me improve. I'm uploading small clips of the long podcasts on a regular basis on platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram, so make sure to follow me on these platforms if you're someone who cannot take out time for the long episodes. The podcasts are also available on all major podcast platforms including Spotify and Google Podcasts. So if you're someone who prefers to listen to podcasts rather than watching full-length videos, make sure to follow on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you very much and see you next time.